Part 48. Adorable Baby, The Miracle Doctor is So Awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 471. Zhao Fulan covered her pierced wrist with a horrifying expression. He actually let that little brat run away. It was in vain that she had put so much effort into setting up a formation to attract Shen Yizi. Useless thing, she slapped Kui Bailuo with her backhand. Looking at Shen Yizi in the formation, hatred surged in her chest. Originally, I wanted to cut off the little kid's hand and throw it in front of her, so that I could appreciate her painful but helpless expression. After admiring it enough, I would use the little kid to force her to self-destruct her pubic area. Who would have thought that a monster would come out of that little kid? Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Zhao Fulan cursed several times in a row. Senior sister, are you okay? Kui Bailuo looked at her bleeding wrist with some worry. Zhao Fulan glanced at her and suddenly smiled. A little boy is gone, isn't there, Kui Bailuo? It was said that Shen Yizi had a very good relationship with her, and she wanted to see how good they were. Zhao Fulan was operating on the formation board for a while, and Shen Yizi, who could not see outside, suddenly could see. Kneel down and slap yourself. As soon as Zhao Fulan finished speaking, Kui Bailuo immediately knelt down and slapped his face with both hands. Shen Yizi looked at Zhao Fulan coldly, with the murderous intention in his heart rising to the top. Did you see it? Kui Bailuo is under my control now. She will do whatever I tell her to do. Even if I let her die, she won't blink an eye. Oh, so what? Shen Yizi asked calmly. Zhao Fulan was angry, her chest heaved a few times, and then she smiled as if she had seen through her. It's useless even if you pretend not to care. Now, I want you to destroy your Danshan, otherwise, I will let her kill herself in front of you. Shen Yizi laughed loudly, making Zhao Fulan confused. As a monk, don't you know what Danshan means to a monk? Or do you think I will destroy my path to immortality for the sake of others? Zhao Fulan, you are really naive. Zhao Fulan's face suddenly became extremely ugly. Also, let me give you a piece of advice, the villain dies because he talks too much. Before the word many could be written, Shen Yizi's figure suddenly disappeared. Zhao Fulan was shocked and wanted to control the array, but it was already too late. Shen Yizi has come out of the formation. Zhao Fulan gritted his teeth. Didn't he say that this was the trapped immortal formation left over from ancient times? How could it be broken so easily? Seeing Shen Yizi's figure approaching rapidly, Zhao Fulan shouted, Kui Bailuo, stop her. Shen Yizi had already slapped Zhao Fulan, but Kui Bailuo suddenly rushed over. She was afraid of accidentally hurting her, so she could only forcefully remove the slap. This shock caused internal injuries in her lungs, a sweet taste in her throat, and she almost vomited blood. Seeing this, Zhao Fulan showed a strange smile, and Shen Yizi felt bad. The next moment, a violent bombing sound sounded, and the ground shook. Ah! The earth dragon has turned over. Run! Some people thought it was an earthquake and ran out in a hurry. Others believed it and ran with it. For a time, there was a mess at the foot of the mountain. Gu Swiding hurried to Dan City and sent a message to Shen Yizi immediately, but did not receive a reply from her. I learned from Kui Yu that she went to Kui's hometown, but after she went there, I learned that she had taken Qingbao and Kui Bailuo out to play. Gu Swiding thought for a while, took out a tracking charm, and burned a strand of Shen Yizi's hair. The smoke after burning was absorbed by the tracking charm. The tracking talisman spun around in mid-air and went straight in one direction. Gu Swiding followed behind. Unexpectedly, as soon as they left the city, they heard an explosion from Xiaju Mountain. And the tracking talisman is heading there. His face changed slightly, and he had a bad feeling in his heart, so he increased his speed to the extreme. Asterisk. At the center of the explosion, Shen Yizi was pinned down by Kui Bailuo. There was a buzzing in his ears. It took him a long time to recover and reconnect with the real world. A burst of warm liquid flowed down his neck, accompanied by the smell of blood. That was the blood flowing out of Kui Bealogo's body. At the moment of the explosion, Kui Bealogo seemed to wake up and actually rushed towards her, threw her to the ground, and used his body to resist the huge impact force for her. Had she not opened the turtle shell in time, both of them might have been blown to pieces by now. But this time, Zhao Fulan was obviously determined to kill her, and had ambushed a large number of thunder and fireballs in advance. The destructive power caused in that moment was so astonishing that even the turtle shell could not withstand it. Shen Yizi felt that her internal organs were shaken out of place, and Kui Bealogo would only be injured more seriously than her. She moved Kui Bealogo away from her body with difficulty, sat up, and quickly fed herself and her a rejuvenation pill each. She feels better, but Kui Bealogo is still in a coma. She took her pulse, and to her surprise, her injury was much less serious than she thought, and it was even healing quickly under the power of the rejuvenation pill. Shen Yizi thought thoughtfully as he thought of the golden light that flashed across her body during the explosion. By the way, where is Zhao Fulan? Shen Yizi scanned the surrounding area with his spiritual consciousness, but found no sign of her. He must have thought of his escape route a long time ago and ran away the moment the explosion occurred. This woman is really like a tarsal maggot. She has come to trouble her several times and wanted to kill her. This time she even attacked Qingbao and Baoluo. Has touched her reverse scales. If Zhao Fulan appears again next time, she will definitely make her come back. Shen Yizi was about to pick up Kui Bealogo when Gu Switting arrived. Zhizi, he held her arm and looked her up and down, and then he felt relieved after confirming that she was really fine. We'll talk about it when we get back. Shen Yizi picked up Kui Bealogo, pulled out the sky boat, and the three of them quickly returned to Kui's house. Seeing Shen Yizi actually carrying the unconscious Kui Bealogo off the sky boat, Kui Mi was startled. What's wrong with Bealogo? Mr. Kui, Bealogo is fine. He is just unconscious. He will wake up after a while. Coming out of Kui Bealogo's room, Shen Yizi told the story, but only said that a few of them had encountered bad guys, and did not mention Kui Bealogo being controlled. After all, she doesn't know the specific situation, so it's hard to say it and only make the old man worried. Let's wait until Kui Bealogo wakes up. Gu Switting asked, where is Qingbao? Shen Yizi said, Qingbao. She sensed it and found that the connection with Little Frog was broken. It seemed that Qingbao had remembered her instructions and hid in a small space with Little Frog. She took Gu Switting to the yard where she lived and entered the space. She bound her own space with King Bao's small space, so that the two spaces exist independently and can communicate with each other. It's like opening up the balcony between two independent houses. Sure enough, Qingbao was playing in the amusement park in space. He looked happy. It seemed that the previous encounters had not left a shadow on his heart. This is good. She is still afraid that his little heart will be hurt. She herself was very frightened. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 472. Shen Yizi walked over and hugged Qingbao tightly for a while. Looking at the purple pinch marks on his face, he felt extremely distressed and said, I'm sorry, mother, for causing trouble to our Qingbao. Gu Switting felt even more distressed than she did. He held Qingbao in his arms and said, Zhizi, hurry up and get some ointment to apply to the baby. Qingbao was nestled in his father's arms, feeling extremely happy as his mother carefully applied the ointment. Neither of them mentioned the explosion in front of Qingbao. After applying medicine to him, they played with him for a while, and Qingbao was so happy. After Qingbao fell asleep, Gu Switting asked. Shen Yizi naturally had no reservations about him. At the end, he said in a deep voice, Zhao Fulan ran away again this time. She might jump out again next time. Gu Suiting felt her murderous intention towards Zhao Fulan and kissed her on the forehead. "Don't worry, if she shows up again, I will kill her." Hearing what he said, Shen Yizi felt relieved and changed into a more comfortable position in his arms. "You said before that you entered a small space by mistake. What happened?" Gu Suiting spoke briefly, stretched out his palm, and a super light appeared in his palm out of thin air. "Is this the elf you found in that meteorite?" Shen Yizi tentatively reached out and touched it. The result is naturally that the entity is not touched. "Well, do you like it, Zizi?" "I like it. How could you not like such a beautiful creature? I see that Chao Guang is very close to you, why don't you contract it?" Gu Suiting presented Chao Guang in front of her. As early as when she gave him the Shanhe mirror, he had been thinking about giving her something in return. However, ordinary things cannot enter his eyes, but this time elf is exactly what he wants. Shen Yizi was about to refuse, but the super light actually quickly circled around her, then sank into her body and appeared directly in her dantian. She couldn't help but be shocked. The look made Gu Suiting chuckle and scratch her face. "See, I was right. Chao Guang really likes you." After being apart for a few days, now they were together. Gu Suiting smelled the fragrance of her hair, and gradually felt something moved. The soft kiss lingered from her forehead to her lips. This kiss instantly ignited each other. Shen Yizi climbed up to his neck and responded to him proactively. At a certain moment, Gu Suiting issued a seductive invitation in Shen Yizi's ear. "Zizi, my evil poison has been suppressed." Shen Yizi stroked his eyebrows with his fingers, and his eyes seemed to be full of spring water. "Then what are you waiting for? Carpe diem is her rule of life. The worldly rules cannot restrain her." However, in the end, it was Gu Suiting who stopped first. He buried his head deeply in her neck. "Zizi, that time 4 years ago was an accident, but this kind of accident will never happen again. When I marry you, we will." Shen Yizi just kissed her and sealed it. Now that it's come to this, does he still want to stop? She has to eat him tonight? It took a lot of willpower for Gu Suiting to stop at the critical moment. Now that she was teasing him like this, he would not be a man if he hesitated any longer. The next morning, after Qingbao got up, he immediately came to see his mother and father. As a result, I entered their room and found that the two of them had not gotten up yet. It turns out that daddy can stay in bed too. Qingbao was very surprised when he discovered this fact. Actually, Gu Suiting woke up the moment he came in. When he noticed Qingbao sneaking up to the bedside, he suddenly opened his eyes. Qingbao's big eyes suddenly became even wider. Gu Suiting smiled and made a hissing gesture at him. Qingbao covered his mouth knowingly. Gu Suiting gently got off the bed, put one of Shen Yizi's legs that had emerged from the quilt into it, put on his clothes, and went to the outside room with Qingbao in his arms. "Did you sleep well last night, King Bao? Did you have any dreams?" Qingbao then said in a sweet voice, "I had a nightmare last night. I dreamed of a very big insect. It flew over and ate me in one bite." To describe how big the worm was, he opened his arms and made a gesture. Looking really cute. Gu Suiting couldn't help but kiss him on the cheek. He had always expressed his love for his son. "Then what?" "Then I woke up with a fright." Qingbao patted his chest with a scared expression on his face. Gu Suiting was made to laugh. 3 or 4-year-old children, like white dumplings, are very interesting and cute no matter what they do. When Shen Yizi woke up, he felt a contented laziness. Gu Suiting is no longer here, but his scent still lingers in the quilt. Wrapped in this smell, she couldn't help but think of all the intensity between the two of them last night. Qingbao's clear milky voice came from outside. Father and son seemed to be having breakfast. Shen Yizi listened for a while, and his heart was filled with a sense of complete happiness. She put on her clothes and got up and left the room. "Mother, you are a lazy pig, you didn't get up until now," and I have already eaten 3 bowls of porridge. Qingbao proudly raised 3 fingers. Shen Yizi walked over and rubbed his forehead. You dare to laugh at my mother, don't you? I'm looking for a beating. Picked him up and patted his fleshy buttocks. Putting the little one down, she turned around and went to wash up. Daddy, I want to eat shrimp dumplings. The shrimp dumplings were placed at the other end of the table. Qingbao could not reach them, so he asked Gu Swiding to pick them up for him. Unexpectedly, I called several times in a row, but my father didn't respond. Hand held his hand and shook it for a few times. Gu Swiding finally looked away from Shen Yizi and realized that he had been following her involuntarily just now, and his son had noticed him, and he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. Put your fist on your lips and cough lightly. What do you want to eat, Qingbao? Shen Yizi came to the table after washing up. He was about to sit down next to Gu Swiding when Qingbao stopped him tyrannically. Mother, sit next to me. He likes to sit between his father and mother. How did you know that I became the little light bulb between father and mother? The family of 3 had a happy breakfast and then left the space. Unexpectedly, as soon as he opened the door, he saw Kui Mi waiting outside. O's Hizzy, you have figured it out, come and see Bailu with me. Before entering the space last night, Shen Yizi habitually set up a barrier, so Kui Mi couldn't break in no matter how anxious he was. Don't worry, what's wrong with Bailu? Shen Yizi followed him quickly towards Kui Bailuo's house. Gu Swiding followed behind with Qingbao in his arms. Kui Mi said anxiously, the maid came to report that there was a layer of golden light coming out of Bailuo's body. Qiantang looked at it and said that some strange treasure in Bailuo's body had awakened and needed to consume a lot of spiritual power. I can't figure it out either. Qiantang is injecting spiritual power into Bailu, and he asked me to come to you. The exotic treasure has awakened? Shen Yizi swept forward and entered Kui Bailuo's room first. On the couch, Wang Kantang was sitting cross-legged behind Kui Bailuo, putting his hands on her back to input spiritual power to her. And Kui Bailuo's body, or to be precise, his dantian is emitting a burst of golden light. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 473. Wang Kantang, who was sending spiritual power to Kui Bailuo, could no longer hold on. His face was as golden as paper and his body was trembling slightly. Shen Yizi stepped forward and said, Uncle Wang, let me do it. She sat down in front of Kui Bailuo, put her hands together, and sent her spiritual power. However, as soon as she made contact, she felt a huge suction force coming from Kui Bailuo's body, swallowing up the spiritual power in her body. This time, instead of being transported by her, she was swallowed up. Wang Kantang didn't show off, took back his hand, and took the time to adjust his breath and restore his spiritual power. Shen Yizi sent a message to Gu Swiding, I want to bring Bailu into the space. Please take Uncle Wang out. Guard the door for me and don't let anyone in. Gu Swiding frowned and said, be careful. He said to Wang Kantang, Uncle Wang, I know there is a way to wake up Miss Kui, but we can't be disturbed in any way. Let's go out and wait. Wang Kantang glanced at Shen Yizi, and when he saw her calm expression, he calmed down and said, okay. After coming out of the room, Gu Swiding set up barriers around him to block and soundproof them. In the room, Shen Yizi and Kui Bailuo on the bed had disappeared. In the space, as soon as Kui Bailuo entered, he began to absorb spiritual energy crazily, and a spiritual energy vortex was quickly formed around him. Fortunately, after the first level of space was unlocked, the aura was several times richer than before, and it could still meet her needs for the time being. Shen Yizi broke away, took out the spirit stones from the grocery store, and set up a spirit gathering array around her. The spirit gathering formation is a very flexible formation. The complexity of the formation can be determined according to the number of people and the needs of the people in the formation. The one she is setting up now is a small one, using a total of 86 spiritual stones. I originally thought that these spirit stones could last for a while no matter what, but unexpectedly they were sucked dry at a speed visible to the naked eye and turned into powder. Shen Yizi added another 236 yuan, but he didn't last long. Isn't this absorbed too quickly? Will Baolu be okay? Shen Yizi observed carefully and found that not only was she fine, but she had also introduced qi into her body, and her cultivation level was still rising. The first level of qi refining, the second level of qi refining, the third level of qi refining, it's as fast as riding a rocket. Previously, Baoluo was obviously a mortal who could not cultivate. She tested everyone around her with a soul measuring board. Very few people had spiritual roots and the qualifications to cultivate immortals. Even those who did have mixed 5 spiritual roots and 4 spiritual roots. In the Tianyuan world where spiritual energy is so thin, one would probably not be able to draw it into the body after a lifetime of cultivation. And now, under the influence of the exotic treasure, she has directly stepped into the ranks of monks, and her cultivation has grown so fast. Even Shen Yizi couldn't help but feel envious. Thinking about her current cultivation level, she has cultivated it slowly step by step. However, if the cultivation level grows too fast, it can easily cause the foundation to become unstable. But now is not the time to worry about this. The thing in Kui Baoluo's Danshan absorbs spiritual energy so fiercely that she is worried that the spiritual stone may not be enough. When the time comes when there is no spiritual energy left to absorb, will that thing absorb Baolu instead? Shen Yizi was frightened when he thought of this possibility. Seeing that the spirit stones were almost exhausted again, she immediately replenished them. While Kui Baoluo was absorbing the exotic treasures in her body, she hurriedly restocked her shelves and seized the time to earn spiritual stones. 1 hour, 2 hours, Kui Baoluo's cultivation has reached qi refining perfection. Due to the imperfection of the laws of space, she cannot advance here, so her cultivation cannot be improved. Shen Yizi was still afraid that she would be burst, so he kept staring at her nervously. Fortunately, this did not happen. Her cultivation level was still maintained at the perfect state of qi refining, and the rest of the spiritual energy was absorbed by the strange treasure. The situation that she had expected that the spiritual stones might not be enough finally happened. There are less than 10,000 spiritual stones left in the purse in the grocery store, but the speed at which Yubao absorbs spiritual energy has not slowed down at all. After Shen Yizi redeployed a spirit gathering formation, he tentatively sent a message to Yang Shengqing, "Big brother, please help." She explained Kui Baoluo's situation in detail and asked, "I'm almost running out of spiritual stones, what should I do next?" Fortunately, the boss didn't let her wait long before replying, "You can use Yunling pill instead of spirit stone, but to refine Yunling pill, you need a medicinal material called jade glaze. I don't have it on hand. You can find it in the shop. Look and see if anyone sells this. I have jade glass, I'll give it to you right away." Shen Yizi was overjoyed and immediately sent Yang Shengqing a dozen jade-glazed plants of perfect quality and age. Yang Shengqing accepted it and said, "Wait a minute, I'm going to refine the spirit accumulating pill." About half an hour later, a bottle of hot, freshly baked Yunling pill was handed over to him. "Crystal exquisite bag, thank you very much. Hand over a bunch of food by the way." Shen Yizi fed Kui Baoluo a spiritual pill. Yunling Dan is a kind of elixir that contains a lot of spiritual power. In short, it is like concentrated solid spiritual energy. Once fed, the speed at which the strange treasure absorbs spiritual stones slows down a lot. And Yunling pill, it took about 5 minutes for the exotic treasure to be completely absorbed. Shen Yizi continued to feed Kui Baoluo. After feeding a bottle of Yunling pill, the exotic treasure's need for spiritual energy finally slowed down and entered a stable state, not as urgent as it was at the beginning. For example, the strange treasure at the beginning is like a starving ghost who has not eaten in 8 lifetimes. The need for spiritual energy is intense. Now, after absorbing so much spiritual energy, spiritual stones, and spiritual accumulation pills, it feels a little full, so it becomes calmer. But this does not mean that it is full, so the spirit yun pill and spirit stone must continue to keep up and cannot stop. Yang Shengqing sent another bottle of spiritual preservation pill, and Shen Yazi accepted it. This time, he did not say thank you, but silently handed over several jars of spiritual wine and a basket of spiritual fruits. Yang Shengqing was very helpful this time, but she couldn't spare any time now and had to take care of Kui Bealuo first. When Kui Bealuo is fine, she will thank him again. As everyone knows, Yang Shengqing was pleasantly surprised when he received what she sent. He himself is a master of alchemy. In his opinion, alchemy is as simple as eating and drinking water, so he doesn't think it is a big deal to help Shen Yazi refine 2 bottles of Yunling pill. What's more, he also received more than a dozen jade-glazed plants from her. Although Yuli was not a high-level elixir, not even an elixir, it was extremely rare. He had been looking for it for a long time but could not find it. What she sent was enough to pay for the alchemy. Those who eat spiritual fruits and spiritual wine are the real good things. Finally he no longer has to eat those unpalatable meals made by Xiaoqing. After 2 bottles of Yunling Dan were consumed, the spiritual stones in Shen Yazi's hand were also consumed, and the strange treasure finally stopped absorbing spiritual energy. Kui Bealuo's eyelashes fluttered, and Shen Yazi immediately took her out of the space. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 474. Kui Bealuo opened his eyes and saw the person in front of him clearly. His expression was still a little dazed. She blinked, then blinked again, her consciousness completely returned, and her memory was restored. Sisters Hizzy. Shen Yazi breathed a sigh of relief. Bealu, how do you feel? Kui Bealuo's eyes were red and he threw himself into her arms. I'm sorry, It's okay, don't cry anymore. Shen Yazi stroked her back gently and took out a bowl of milk pudding. Come, eat something. You haven't eaten anything since yesterday. Are you hungry? Kui Bealuo really felt hungry when she said this, and his original mood was instantly interrupted by a bowl of sweet pudding. She took it and took a spoonful. Well, it's so delicious. When she was full, Shen Yazi led her out and opened the door. Gu Switting, who was waiting outside, waved his hand to remove the barrier. Kui Mi rushed over and pulled Kui Bealuo around. You girl, you made Grandpa worried for a while. Kui Bealuo hugged him, and the little girl said coquettishly, I'm sorry, Grandpa. Kui Mi was a little flattered. Although the grandfather and grandson were usually close to each other, Bealuo expressed it so bluntly for the first time, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but grin. It's good that you're fine. Wang Kantang stood on the side, feeling jealous in his heart. He pretended to cough, attracting Kui Bealuo's attention. Dad, Kui Bealuo also rushed forward and gave him a big hug. Now, it was Kui Mi's turn to be angry. Wang Kantang touched his daughter's head and suddenly realized, huh? Bealuo, what's wrong with you? Suddenly you have achieved cultivation? Right, Kui Bealuo pointed to his dantian, it's not all because of it. She pointed towards Songxian in the courtyard. It's a long story, let's go over there and sit down and talk. She walked up to Qingbao, pinched his cheek, and led him towards Songxian. A few people sat down in Songxian. Shen Yazi took out snacks and put them on the table. He also made a pot of spiritual tea and poured a cup for each of them. Kui Bealuo sat in front of him holding Qingbao, fed him a piece of pine mushroom cake, and began to tell about his experiences in the past 2 days. How he was hypnotized by Zhao Fulan, how he was fed Wanju water by her and became her puppet, how he took Shen Yazi and Qingbao to Xiaju Mountain under her instructions. Speaking of her trip to Xiaju Mountain, she looked at Shen Yazi guiltily. Before she could open her mouth to apologize, Shen Yazi took a piece of hazelnut pastry and stuffed it into her mouth. You are also a victim. If I want to blame Zhao Fulan, what does it have to do with you? Besides, I can't say that you were implicated in this matter. After all, it is me who Zhao Fulan really wants to deal with. Kui Bailuo shook his head. Sisters Hizzy, even without you, Zhao Fulan would still come to me because of Bodhisattva. Shen Yazi, Bodhisattva. It is now entrenched in my Danshan, and I have completely integrated with it. I can restore the memory that was erased by Wanju water, thanks to it. Kui Bailuo said. I also saw it from it some fragments. Those fragments are very fragmentary, but they also reveal a lot of information. For example, it was suppressed in the blood pool after being obtained by Rong Xian'er. For example, one day a woman rushed into the place where it was suppressed. In order to leave there, it took the initiative to enter the woman's body. Kui Bailuo pieced together a general story through these fragments. My mother was forced to fall off a cliff by Kui Mingguang, and was later rescued by Rong Xian'er, the master of the immortal medicine section. It is not known whether she really saved people or had some purpose. After that, my mother I accidentally entered the forbidden area where Bodhisattva was suppressed. In order to leave, Bodhisattva took the initiative to enter my mother's body. Therefore, I was chased by the immortal doctor sect, and then I met you. She looked towards Wan Kantang. After that, my mother had me. Maybe at that time, Bodhisattva began to merge with me. Because she had to support me and Bodhisattva at the same time, my mother's body declined quickly and she gave birth to a child. I passed away a few years later. Before her death, my mother asked me to move to that small courtyard because she made some arrangements there so that I could grow up safely. Shen Yazi guessed, it should be the spirit gathering array. She still remembered that Bailu wore a hairpin made of spirit gathering beads when he went to see her for the first time. Be it the spirit gathering pearl or the spirit gathering formation, they are all meant to support the Bodhi seed in her body. Fortunately, Bodhisattva had not yet awakened at that time and had little demand for spiritual energy, otherwise Bailu might have been swallowed up by it and died. After hearing her guess, Kui Mi and Wan Kantang were frightened for a while, holding Kui Bailuo's hands on the left and right, for fear that she would suddenly disappear. Wan Kantang said in a deep voice, Bailuo is carrying a rare treasure like the Bodhi seed, and it is known by the immortal medicine section. I'm afraid there will be countless troubles in the future. A sharp edge flashed in Kui Bailuo's eyes. Huh, why are you afraid of them? I'm just about to settle a score with them. As long as they dare to come, I dare to keep them. Now she is a monk, her cultivation level is not low, and she can already look down on most people in Tianyuan world. Wan Kantang knocked her on the head. You must not act arbitrarily just because you have the cultivation level. Your cultivation level came too quickly. It was not achieved by your own cultivation at all. The foundation is inevitably unstable, and you have no cultivation level. Do you know how to cast spells? How to fight with others? Every time he asked a question, Kui Bailuo shook his head. The ambitions I had just now were all gone. It makes people laugh. Although I don't know how to do it now, I can learn it. Dad, don't you know? Bodhisattva also taught me a set of exercises called Wuliang Sutra. The name is too long and I can't remember it at all. Just call it the Infinite Sutra. The page of the exercise says that as long as I practice to a high and deep level, it won't be a problem to move mountains and seas, hold up stars and so on. Speaking of the martial arts, Kui Bailuo was very energetic and his eyebrows were dancing. Shen Yazi raised doubts. I tested Bailu's spiritual roots before, but the soul measuring board did not show that she had spiritual roots. Although Bodhisattva is powerful, it can't make people grow spiritual roots out of thin air, right? And Baelu now he has attained cultivation level. Gu Switting said, I once heard Master mention that some people have hidden spiritual roots. The hidden spiritual roots generally will not show up unless they are greatly stimulated. This should be the case with Miss Kui. Wang Kantang nodded, yes, Baelu should be the hidden spiritual root, which appeared under the stimulation of Bodhi seed. Shen Yizi, it turns out that there is a theory of explicitness and concealment of spiritual roots. Isn't this just like people having dominant genes and recessive genes? Kui Baelu suddenly realized. Shen Yizi introduced the colors corresponding to each aura. Baelu, close your eyes and feel which color of aura you have the strongest affinity for. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 475. Kui Baelu closed his eyes, calmed down, and entered an extremely mysterious state. Even with your eyes closed, you can see aura light spots of different colors floating around. She started to operate the technique, and the green light spots floated towards her and submerged into her body. Ah, I feel it, it's the wind, I am Feng Lingen. Kui Baelu opened his eyes excitedly. Shen Yizi smiled. She was very curious when she first started practicing. On this day, several people held a symposium around cultivation, spiritual roots, and exercises. Each has benefited a lot. Although Kui Mi is not a monk, some of the principles are similar. As a scholar with extensive knowledge, he can sometimes give interpretations from another aspect, which makes several monks feel suddenly enlightened. As for Qingbao, he is everyone's pistachio and only needs to be responsible for eating and drinking. This symposium did not end until dusk. Shen Yizi still had some unfinished ideas. We can communicate like this from time to time in the future. Whether you are studying or practicing, it is not advisable to work behind closed doors. Communicate more with others, and you will often get unexpected inspiration at the moment when your thoughts collide. At night, Gu Switting stayed alone in the empty room. Because Shen Yizi was occupied by Kui Baelu. He was very sad about this. He had just tasted the joy of fish and water. He could be said to know the taste after eating the marrow. He wished he could be with Shen Yizi every night. He can be said to be sleepless on one side, but on the other side, Shen Yizi and Kui Baelu are very happy. The two of them made noises with Qingbao for a while. When he fell asleep, the two of them lay down and talked in a low voice. Sisters Hizi, actually during the day when Bodhisattva was swallowing spiritual energy and awakening, I was not completely unconscious. Shen Yizi slapped Qingbao on the back. Kui Baelu said, I know you have been by my side and fed me pills. Bodhisattva needs to swallow a lot of spiritual energy every time he awakens. I didn't know it before, but now that I am a monk myself, I have noticed it. The spiritual energy of this world is not strong, and it is far from meeting the requirements of Bodhisattva. She turned over and rested her face on her folded palms. I will definitely return those consumed spiritual stones and elixirs to you in the future. She said it with all her heart. But in fact, she herself was not very confident. She suddenly changed from an ordinary person to a monk with great cultivation. She didn't know how to obtain the spirit stone, but she knew that she had to do it. Shen Yizi, okay, you spent all the spiritual stones I accumulated this time, a total of 2,300 yuan. Considering our friendship, I won't charge you any interest. In fact, 2,300 yuan was not even 1/10 of what she took out, but she had no intention of asking Kui Baelu to pay it back, so she quoted this number, just not wanting her to feel that she was owed. Kui Baelu currently has no idea about spiritual stones, and he doesn't know whether 2,300 spiritual stones are too many or too few. Sisters Hizi, what does the spirit stone look like? Shen Yizi took out a piece and handed it to her. So the spiritual stone looks like this. Kui Bealoyo felt the rich and pure spiritual energy in his hand and felt the urge to inhale it into his body. After playing with it for a while, she returned it, but Shenyazi took it away. You can take it. Kui Bealoyo happily put it away. The voices of the two people talking gradually became lower, sleepiness came over them, and they fell asleep unconsciously. Sisters Hizi, when you go to the imperial capital from now on, you must look for me. At the gate, Kui Bealoyo held Shenyazi in his arms, reluctant to let go. Today is the day she goes to the imperial capital to report. If possible, she really doesn't want to be separated from her grandfather and sisters Hizi. After hugging Shenyazi, she squatted in front of Qingbao again, with a pitiful tone. When I think about not seeing Qingbao for a long time, my sister feels like she can't breathe. She clutched her chest, looking like she was going to hold her breath and fall to the ground. Qingbao exposed her shamelessly. Sister Bailu, didn't my mother give you a shadow stone? We can contact you at any time in the future. Kui Bailu rolled his eyes and died in battle. This mischievous look made Shenyazi chuckle. Kui Bailu came back to life again. I don't care, we are going to separate soon. You must kiss your sister, otherwise I will hold you and not let go. She held Qingbao in both hands, and she had the air of being true to her word. Qingbao sighed with a helpless expression. Okay, I'll just kiss you. When it was time to leave, Kui Bailu smiled and waved his hands to the people standing there. I'm leaving. Don't miss me too much. Kui Mi quickly wiped his eyes. Hurry up, I'll see what you do if you can't catch the boat. Qian Tang, I went to the imperial capital, and I have to take good care of this girl. Wan Kantang will accompany Kui Bailu to the imperial capital. Until the two figures disappeared from sight, Kui Mi still looked at himself, and Shenyazi looked at the old man's lonely figure with compassion in his heart. Old Kui, if you miss Bailu in the future, please tell me at any time and I will help you contact him. When a bird grows up, it must leave its nest. Kui Mi sighed and entered the gate with his hands behind his back. Shenyazi and Gu Switting looked at each other. They both looked at Qingbao at the same time and winked at him, asking him to catch up and coax the old man. Unexpectedly, it didn't take long for Kui Mi to come out carrying a baggage. Facing Shenyazi's confused look, he smiled and said, I have made it clear to the college. Now I am a free agent. It's so big that you can go anywhere. Bailu has already gone to the imperial capital to study, so I don't need to stay here. Next, I plan to go to Jiazhuang for retirement. Do you mind taking me with you? Shenyaz Hixiao, of course I don't mind. Are you just bringing this baggage? Don't you want to bring those books, calligraphy, and paintings? I have a kinkan bag, which can hold a lot of things. That's good, come with me. Kui Mi took her to his study room, bringing with him a collection of ancient calligraphy, and paintings. Kui Mi was surprised and a little envious watching Shenyazi collecting things with ease. Finally, Kui Mi gave the housekeeper a few words, and then left gracefully with Shenyazi and his family of 3. When Tianzhou passed a certain place in the city, Qingbao pointed down and said, there are many people there. Shenyazi glanced inadvertently, his eyes suddenly fixed, and he stopped the Tianzhou. Gu Switting noticed something strange about her. What's wrong? He followed her gaze and looked over. In the crowd below, a woman was kneeling on a straw mat. Next to her stood a sign, sell yourself to bury your husband. Shenyazi has often seen people selling themselves to bury their husbands in those TV dramas, but this is the first time they have seen him selling his body to bury his husband. However, this is not the point. The point is the little girl squatting next to the woman. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 476. The little girl was only 1 or 2 years old. Her eyes were dull and her mouth was drooling. She was squatting there motionless, which looked unusual. But her appearance is very iconic. The moment Shenyazi saw her, his heart felt like it was hit, and he felt sour and soft. For the monk, this feeling is not groundless, but indicates that the little girl may have some kind of connection with her. Thinking of some possibility, Shenyazi's heartbeat couldn't help but speed up, and he lowered the sky boat to hover above the roof of a house. Tianzhou was in a state of invisibility, so he did not attract anyone's attention. "I'll go down and take a look." Shenyazi jumped down and landed lightly. Gu Swiding told Kui Mi, "Mr. Kui, please take good care of Qingbao. I will accompany Ji to take a look." "Go." Gu Swiding strode to catch up with Shenyazi, stood shoulder to shoulder with her, and held her hand. The two squeezed into the crowd. Shenyazi was getting closer to the little girl. The soul bead hanging around her neck, the bead her father had given her earlier that could sense the reincarnation of her mother, suddenly became hot. "The little girl in front of me is my reincarnated mother." Originally she thought it would take a long time to search, but she didn't expect to meet him under such circumstances. Just as she was about to step forward, a fat man in a brocade robe spoke, "Woman, raise your head so that I can take a good look at you." The woman slowly raised her head, her face expressionless, even a little numb, and her eyes always lowered. The fat man rubbed his chin, his narrowed eyes looked like he was looking at goods. "Although her face looks a little haggard, she looks pretty good. I think she will be a comely beauty after a while." This statement obviously means that he wants to buy her. The woman's complexion finally changed, and she showed a little bit of energy. Hearing this, Shenyazi planned to continue to wait and see. "It's just," the fat man said again, "this girl looks stupid, and I don't want to take a fool back with me." After speaking, "Wait to see the woman's reaction." The woman glanced at the clueless girl next to her, and finally lowered her head. "I can't leave her behind. I don't know if I'm talking to the fat man or to myself." Fatty was not angry at being rejected by her. "It's a pity that mother and daughter have a deep love." I waved my fan and left. The onlookers pointed at the woman and talked a lot, but for a long time no one showed any intention of buying her. Shenyazi stepped forward at this time. The woman looked at him in surprise, but found that she was a woman, and she was a woman who was ashamed of herself. She couldn't help but be confused. What was this woman doing here? Shenyazi knelt down in front of the little girl and held her little hand. The girl raised her head and looked at her blankly. She suddenly smiled at her with a silly smile and drool. Shenyazi's eyes suddenly felt a little hot. Seeing that she seemed to be interested in the little girl, the woman took the opportunity to sell her. "Girl, I am a very well-behaved girl and she eats very little. How about you show mercy and buy her back?" The woman's complexion was yellow and her expression was haggard, but she could tell that her facial features were good. As the fat man said, if she could have enough food and clothing and keep herself healthy, she would definitely be a delicate and beautiful woman. This is why she put up a sign saying she sold her husband to be buried, and so many people crowded here to watch the fun. "Are you her biological mother?" Shenyazi asked. The woman was stunned for a moment and nodded. Shenyazi picked up the girl and said to her, "Follow me." Gu Swiding opened the way for her, and the crowd separated into a lane and watched the three of them enter a restaurant not far away. Shenyazi immediately asked for a private room after entering, performed a cleaning technique on the girl in his arms, and wiped her saliva with a handkerchief. When the woman saw this scene, she realized that she was extraordinary and shrank. Shenyazi said to her warmly, "Sit down." The woman sat down solemnly opposite. Gu Swiding ordered a table of dishes. After the waiter went out, Shenyazi got straight to the point and said, "I want to buy your daughter. You make the bid." The woman was silent for a while. "I don't know what price is appropriate, girl," just give it to me. This man and woman are of extraordinary status at first glance, and they must be rich in money. If she bids herself, she will probably be low, so she might as well let them watch. A noble person will never be stingy when he takes action. This is a bit of wisdom belonging to ordinary people in the market. Shenyazi took out a bag of silver and put it on the table. When the woman saw the bulging bag, her eyes immediately lit up, and she was about to reach out to take it, but Shenyazi held down the silver bag. "Don't worry, just sign this." She took a document from Gu Switting's hand severing the relationship between mother and daughter. She had just sent a message for him to write it down. Shenyazi read the contents of the document to the woman. "If you have no objection, just put your fingerprint on it. This is to buy out the blood relationship of the reincarnated mother in this life, and to avoid being involved in any cause and effect in the future." The woman pressed her fingerprint without any hesitation. Although she didn't know why the woman wanted to buy her Shaniu, she could see clearly that the woman had no dislike for Shaniu at all. If Shaniu followed her in the future, she would definitely be able to live a good life. It's better than following her, a useless mother. Moreover, deep down she had to admit that she felt relieved to sell silly girl to this woman. At this time, the dishes came one after another. Shenyazi stood up with the baby girl in his arms. "We have already paid for this table of food. You can eat with confidence. We have other things to do, so we won't stay any longer. Let's take our leave." The woman looked at her back as she left with silly girl in her arms, and blurted out, "You will treat her well, right?" Shenyazi turned around and smiled. "That's natural." She held the baby girl's hand and shook it at the woman. "Come, see your mother again." Shaniu showed a silly smile. The woman looked at it, covered her mouth, and burst into tears. Back on the Tianzhou, Kuimi saw the girl in Shenyazi's arms and was surprised. "Why did you bring back a little girl when you went down?" Shenyazi did not tell the truth. After all, reincarnation is a bit mysterious to ordinary people. "I thought she was cute, so I bought her back." Kuimi obviously didn't believe it, but since she didn't want to elaborate, he didn't get to the bottom of it. "Mother, is this the sister you bought?" Qingbao looked up at the little girl in Shenyazi's arms. His words made several adults laugh. Gu Switting picked him up so that he didn't have to raise his head. "Yes, this is my sister. You have to take good care of your sister from now on, and you can't bully her, you know." He probably guessed why Gigi suddenly bought such a silly girl. "But I couldn't explain it to Qingbao, so I just let him think she was my sister." Qingbao nodded, quickly stepped into the role of an older brother, and took the initiative to take out food to share with the little girl. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 477. Although the little girl is stupid, she is extremely sensitive to food. She will put it in her mouth when she takes it. Looking very hungry. Shenyazi felt distressed for a while, carried her into the cabin, and took out a bowl of custard to feed her. Looking at the little person, he has a big appetite. After eating the cakes given by Qingbao and adding a bowl of custard, he still wanted to eat. Shenyazi touched her belly and said, "Be good, if you continue to eat, you will have to hold on. Eat again after a while." Even though he knew that this was his mother's reincarnation, she was still so young that Shenyazi could not treat her as his mother. Instead, he treated her more like a daughter. Shenyazi felt embarrassed and didn't know what his father would think when he saw such a young mother. Thinking about it, I'm really looking forward to it. Tianzhou has left the city. Shenyazi originally planned to go back to Jiazhuang directly. After being out for a few months, it was time to go back. But when she unexpectedly found her reincarnated mother, she naturally had to send her to her father first. However, you must first seek Kuimi's opinion before changing the route. "Mr. Kui, I have to postpone my return till Jiazhuang for a while." I have to go to Kyandao Lake first. Do you think you will be waiting for us in Danghang to pick you up when we return, or will you go to Kyandao Lake with us? Kui Mi became excited when he heard the words Thousand Island Lake. Is it the Sangui zone between the central, southern, and western regions? I've wanted to go there for a long time, but it's a pity that Gaiweiwen is not accessible to ordinary people. Now that I have the opportunity, I will naturally go. Happy expression. Shen Yizi and Gu Swiding looked at each other and smiled. It seemed that Mr. Kui was old-hearted. He had previously said that he would go till Jiazhuang for retirement. Having walked through it before, this trip was even smoother and took less time than before. Because we were sitting on the Tianzhou, and the Tianzhou remained invisible at all times, the journey was calm and we did not encounter any dangers or accidents. Coupled with the fact that he can eat delicious food cooked by Shen Yizi every day, Kui Mi feels that this trip is simply enjoyable. And Xiang Xiang, the name given to the little girl by Shen Yizi, also saw her become whiter and fatter under her feeding. Shen Yizi first went to Sanzu Island, placed Kui Mi in Chunshui House in Yafu City, and asked the housekeeper to take good care of him. Then he took Xiang Xiang to Kunling Island. Shen Jiangan was playing, same pronunciation, Pu, same pronunciation as Portuguese, chess with Yuan Bao in the stone pavilion. He sensed that Shen Yizi's family of 3 was back. In addition to the surprise, he was a little surprised. Why did he come back so soon? When Shen Yizi walked into the stone pavilion with Xiang Xiang in his arms, he almost immediately recognized the identity of the little girl in her arms and stood up in a daze. She is. Shen Yizi nodded with a smile. If you live up to your trust, Dad, she will be the reincarnated mother. She handed Xiang Xiang to him, and Shen Jiangan hurriedly took it, held it in his arms carefully, and held his head against hers for a while before his agitated emotions gradually calmed down. Shen Yizi took Yuan Bao and left Shiding, leaving the space for his father and Xiang Xiang. Brother Yuan Bao. Brother King Bao. The 2 little guys ran to each other, hugged each other, and screamed and jumped. After having hugged each other, the 2 held hands and excitedly told each other about their experiences. Shen Yizi and Gu Swiding looked at each other, smiled, and grabbed his hand. Let's go, while it's not dark yet, let's go get some seafood and come back. After staying on the island for 2 days and enjoying some family time, Shen Yizi took 3 family members to Yafukan, picked up Mr. Kui, and had a good stroll around the island. Remembering that he had left in a hurry and didn't even have time to say goodbye to his friends, Shen Yizi prepared to get together with them. The location is Chunshui House, and the party is a buffet style. She had prepared a lot of food in advance, including barbecue, hot pot, various snacks, and fruits. The various aromas were intertwined and made people's mouth water. Xiaoban was the first to come. He brought his sister Xia Yan with him. He handed the gifts to the housekeeper and was led by the maid to the open hall where the party was held. It smells so good, Xiaoban took a deep breath intoxicatedly. Shen Yizi was preparing the sauce. Hearing this, he turned around and said with a smile, everything is on the table. You can take whatever you want. Seeing Xia Yan, she couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. Xia Yan stepped forward awkwardly, thank you for curing me earlier. Are you just saying thank you verbally? I remember that someone seemed to owe me half of his net worth. Shen Yizi looked at her with a half smile. Xia Yan's cheeks swelled, and she was about to have an attack. Xiaoban glanced at her with a warning look, and she didn't dare to have an attack. He took out a list from his sleeve, swiped it and handed it over. Here's the list. The things are already on their way here. Shen Yizi took it and glanced at it. Oh, Xia Yan's net worth is quite rich, just this half is worth the treasury of an average small family. She put away the list and made an invitation gesture. The visitor is a guest, please come in. Xia Yan is the kind of person who opens a dyeing workshop just for some color. He immediately raised his chin and walked past her like a peacock. Xiaoben rushed to Shen Yizi and shrugged helplessly. Xia Yan looked at the dazzling array of food in front of her and felt like she didn't know where to start. She was debating whether to eat fish steak or chicken steak when a deep voice sounded, "Zhizi." She subconsciously turned her head to look, and at that glance, she fell. That man is exactly what she imagined in her dream. However, the next second she heard, "Qingbao, Mom, I picked a lot of flowers, even more than Dad." Daddy. Daddy. This title split Xia Yan's mind like a bolt of lightning. That is Shen Yizi's husband. Her gaze was too direct. Gu Swiding glanced at her and thought she was also Shen Yizi's friend, so he nodded to her. Qingbao saw her and said angrily, "Bad woman, why are you here?" Gu Swiding's originally gentle face suddenly turned cold. Qingbao called the woman a bad woman, so she must have done something bad. "Qingbao, tell daddy, is she bullying you?" Zhou is so protective of shortcomings. Qingbao opened his mouth to tell what happened before, but Shen Yizi stopped him. "Qingbao, can you go to the door and help mother greet the guests?" Qingbao was a little confused. Why did his mother interrupt him? Yuan Bao took his hand and said, "Let's go." Qingbao was taken away by him in a daze. Shen Yizi approached Gu Swiding and said, "I'll tell you the details in the evening, okay?" Gu Swiding pinched her face, hummed slightly dissatisfied, and reluctantly agreed. When he glanced at Xia Yan, his eyes were piercing. Xia Yan was swept back a few steps by him, her chest pounding. There is a feeling of surviving a disaster. Sima Lin, Zhong Wuqi, Menqi and Xiao and others arrived one after another. There are always more than 10 people in the room. Fortunately, the open space is spacious and does not seem crowded. Everyone likes the buffet style. You can get whatever you want. Most of them are young people, so the atmosphere quickly becomes lively. Coupled with the presence of two incomparably cute little guys, Qingbao and Yuan Bao, there was constant laughter in the cabin. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 478. Zhizi, Mr. Gu seems to be very kind to you. You have two such lovely children. It's great that you are so happy. Menqi and Jiao came to Shen Yizi, holding a glass of fruit wine in her hand and talking to her. She clinked the glasses and drank the wine in one gulp. When she put the glass down, she looked relieved. Gu Swiding seemed to be chatting with others, but in fact she had been paying attention to Shen Yizi. There was no way, who said she was too popular. When he saw a woman approaching her, he didn't pay much attention at first, but soon the woman gave him a strange feeling. What does her expression of relief, as if she had finally let go of something, mean? After finishing the conversation, Gu Swiding came to Shen Yizi, put his arm around her shoulders, and chatted with Menqi and Jiao for a few words. Menqi and Jiao noticed that he was vaguely declaring his possession of Shen Yizi, and she smiled bitterly in her heart. This Mr. Gu is really perceptive. He simply admitted generously, "Mr. Gu, I did have thoughts about Yizi before, but now that I see her so happy, I think it's time to let it go." Gu Swiding. After Menqi and Jiao turned around and left, he leaned close to Shen Yizi's ear and said, "My Zhizi is so charming, even women are attracted to you." If his tone had not been so gritty, Shen Yizi would have taken this as a compliment to himself. She expected that she might be in an unusually miserable situation tonight. However, it is impossible to be cowardly. On the contrary, she gave him a naughty smile. "Yes, sometimes I feel troubled by this. So, Mr. Gu, you have to work hard to prevent me from running away with someone else one day." Gu Swiding's eyes instantly heated up several times as he stared at her, and he smiled meaningfully. "Don't worry, madam, I will work hard tonight and I guarantee to satisfy you." The profound meaning of this statement is understood by all adults. Shen Yizi's face heated up, and he secretly wondered if this joke had gone too far. "What if you can't get up tomorrow?" Just as he was worried, Zhonwuki came over and said, "I know, Brother Gu." Due to their previous friendship in the Penglai secret realm, Gu Switting's attitude towards him was much more easygoing. "How was your meal?" Zhonwuki smiled happily. "I like the steamed chicken feet with black bean sauce the most, and the ice cream balls. Unfortunately, ice cream is a cold food, so you can't eat too much." Shen Yizi imagined him chewing on the chicken feet and chuckled, "When I leave, I will put a bucket of ice cream for you and you put it in the storage bag so that you can eat it every day. Or I can just put the ice cream in it. I'll give it to you, you can try to make it yourself and you can eat it anytime you want." Zhonwuki's eyes immediately lit up several degrees. "Okay, thank you very much. It's just a small thing." After chatting for a while, Zhonwuki took out the collection of medicinal materials he had compiled during this period and said, "Yizi, if you have time, take a look at it for me. Please correct me if there is anything wrong." Shen Yizi took it and opened it. The medicinal materials were recorded in detail, including their names, properties, and which diseases they were suitable for treating. There was also a small painting beside it. It could be said that it was already a mature herbal collection. If there is any shortcoming, it is that the drugs recorded are not complete enough. Shen Yizi was reading and discussing with Zhonwuki. The two of them were talking passionately, forming a circle of their own, and Gu Switting could no longer get a word in. He fed a grilled cuttlefish ball to Shen Yizi's mouth, and she subconsciously opened her mouth to eat it. Gu Switting looked deeply at her being so obedient. If there weren't too many people there now, he really wanted to go over and bite her squirming lips. Xia Yan couldn't help but cast her eyes over. Seeing the lingering look in his eyes looking at Shen Yizi, she felt really envious and jealous in her heart. When the party ended, Shen Yizi gave everyone a gift in return. Women are equipped with a complete set of cosmeceuticals. For men, 1 bottle each of Bigo pill and rejuvenation pill. In addition, a stack of messenger charms were given to each person to facilitate future contact. Zhonwuki has an additional medical book that is half a meter high. She took the time to sort it out, and it involves all kinds of medical and pharmaceutical knowledge. Zhonwuki only turned a few pages before he was so mesmerized that it took him a long time to wake up and pull his eyes out of the book with difficulty. "I know, this is too precious, Shen Yizi, it's nothing expensive or not. If one more person knows the knowledge here, maybe more people can be saved. This medical book is not just for you. If you meet a doctor with good character, pass it on as much as you can." Her words really shocked Zhonwuki. "It's me who is narrow-minded. Don't worry, Zhizi, I won't cherish it. I will spread it as widely as possible so that more people can benefit from it." Zhonwuki looked like he wanted to be her evangelist, which made Shen Yizi feel a little uncomfortable. This medical treatise was not created by her, she was just an editor who compiled it, but there was no way to explain this, so she could only smile. In Zhonwuki's eyes, he only felt that her image became more majestic and upright. Zhonwuki was the last one to leave. As soon as his figure disappeared, Shen Yizi felt her waist tighten, and then her eyes blurred. The next second, she was thrown onto the bed, pressed by a solid and warm body. "Come up." In the open pavilion, Qingbao and Yuanbao looked at each other in confusion as their parents suddenly disappeared. Kui Mi stopped them and said, "Your parents have gone to do business, so we don't want to disturb them, let's continue eating hot pot." The next day, Shen Yizi really couldn't get up. It was Gu Switting who carried her to the sky boat. Facing Kui Mi's penetrating and teasing eyes, Shen Yizi buried his head into the culprit's chest and bit him hard. "It's all this bastard's fault." There was a pleasant, low chuckle from above his head. Shen Yizi. Tianzhou flew out of Yufukan and went home directly without returning to Kunling Island. Shen Yizi had already made an agreement with Shen Jiangan before coming out. He said he knew it calmly, but then nothing happened. Now that he has a wife and everything is well done, his daughter and grandson all have to stand aside. Although this wife is still a little kid. When I returned to Jiazhuang, it was already the end of April and the weather was starting to get hotter. Shen Yizi controlled the Tianzhou to slowly circle over the entire Mocking City. Compared with when she left, Mocking City is now a mature city. The houses are neat, the streets are flat and wide, the shopping malls are prosperous, and there is a constant flow of people. It was really beyond her expectation. It can be seen that Xiao San has contributed a lot. Kui Mi looked at the city below and was so shocked that he said for a long time, this change is too big. Shen Yizi revealed the sky boat and slowly landed. Someone noticed, ah! A ship fell from the sky. Everyone looked up to see. The old people who had experienced the previous arrival of the heavenly boat cheered happily, it's Dr. Shen who is back. Dr. Shen is back. The news spread quickly. Shen Yi knew that not long after they settled down, Xiao San came. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 479. Xiao San reported all aspects of Mo Qingqing's affairs to Shen Yizi. After hearing this, she had only one feeling, and that was that she was glad. She was glad that she had bought Xiaosan, so that Mocking City could now be so well managed, developed so rapidly, and well constructed. Xiao San, you have worked hard during this period, take this. Shen Yizi handed over a kinkan bag, which contained a whole bottle of spiritual spring water, several bottles of elixirs, and various materials previously harvested in the Penglai secret realm. Xiao San is an advanced puppet whose intelligence is getting more and more perfect and can absorb other materials to continuously improve itself. Furthermore, she discovered that his cultivation had increased and he was now at the 5th level of qi refining. After taking the kinkan bag, he opened it and looked at it on the spot, with a smile on his face. Thank you, girl. You're welcome, you deserve it. Xiao San handed over another list. Currently, the products we sell in Mo Qingcheng mainly include various finished pills, cosmeceuticals, spiritual flowers, beer, and talismans. This is the sales situation of these products. The previous few we can barely supply all of them, but the talisman seals have been sold out for a long time, and you can't replenish them without you. Mr. Luo helped draw some at first, but the supply was always in short supply, so he stopped taking care of it. Shen Yizi looked at the sales. Although the amount was huge, perhaps it was due to a change in mentality. Nowadays, the gold and silver money had no appeal to her, and her expression was very indifferent. If it were replaced by spiritual stones of the same number, she might even be pleasantly surprised. Shen Yizi took out another kinkan bag, which contained boxes of talismans and seals, as well as pills. You should use these and put them to good use, don't sell them all at once. Yeah, I know the Dragon Boat Festival is coming soon, what are your plans? Dragon Boat Festival? Yes, it will be the Dragon Boat Festival in a few days. Shen Yizi thought for a moment. At that time, let's hold a rice dumpling eating competition and a dragon boat race. Set the prize money higher to attract more people. People come to participate. As for the specific details, you can draw up a charter and show it to me. Xiao San went down. Shen Yizi stretched himself, came out of the study and came to the front yard. Gu Swiding was sitting under the pomegranate tree. Where are Qingbao and the others? Shen Yizi walked over and surrounded him from behind. Gu Swiding held her hand and said, I ran to play with my friends. Shen Yizi laughed and said, let's go out for a walk too. Good. The two of them went out hand in hand, and many people greeted them along the way. Now, the entire Jiazhuang has been merged into Mocking City and has become a village in the city. Once the gate is closed, it is a self-sufficient paradise without being disturbed by the outside world. When the gate is opened, it can be connected to the outside world at any time. Going southeast along a straight bluestone road about 4 to 5 meters wide, you will arrive at Minjaya Villa. Minjaya Villa and a prosperous business district and a shopping area have already become a sight outside. The main body of Mocking City is built according to the surrounding mountains of Qingmang Mountain, hidden in the lush greenery. The two of them were walking down the street, surrounded by the shouts of vendors on both sides, the voices of people talking, the laughter of children. All of this was filled with a strong smell of fireworks. A group of children whizzed by, and Qingbao and Yuanbao were among them. Shen Yizi saw that they were sweating profusely while running, so he stopped them and wiped their sweat. Qingbao saw that his friends had all run to the front and stamped his feet anxiously. Okay, mother, I won't wipe it anymore. Leave Shen Yizi alone and run away. Yuanbao was also very moved, but he still insisted on standing where he was. Shen Yizi patted his and said, okay, go quickly. Finally, the two came to Minjiao Academy. Jingle bell dash. When the two of them stepped into the school gate, the bell rang, and the children ran out of the classroom in droves. Bai Xiaoshu walked out of a classroom with a book in her arms, and Shen Yizi walked over. Seeing her, Bai Xiaoshu was surprised and pleasantly surprised. Master Shen, when did you come back? Morning. How are you? Are you used to being a teacher? Shen Yizi started chatting with her. Why aren't you used to it? I want to stay here and be a teacher all my life. Bai Xiaoshu's brows and eyes were filled with joy. It was obvious that she really liked the profession of being a teacher. The two chatted while walking along the flower path, and Shen Yizi also learned a lot of information about the college. Gu Swiding got along well with those children. A group of children were playing football on the playground, but the ball flew away. Gu Swiding flew up and kicked the ball back, directly into the goal. Children are the most powerful, and Gu Swiding's exposed kick conquered them instantly. Uncle, you are so awesome, can you teach us? Okay, Gu Swiding has always been very patient when it comes to children. Of course, the premise is that the child is not a bear. Shen Yizi watched Gu Swiding and a group of children playing football on the playground. He couldn't help but stop and suddenly thought of an idea. The Dragon Boat Festival is coming soon. Are there any activities prepared in the college? Bai Xiaoshu shook her head. Why, do you have any good ideas? How about holding a kuja competition? When Shen Yizi and Gu Swiding went back, the sky had already darkened. I could hear the joy coming from the yard in the distance. In the yard, Luo Yao Yao was playing the role of the big bad wolf, chasing after the two little white rabbits Jingbao and Yuanbao with all his teeth and claws, pretending to eat them. The two little guys were not afraid at all, and they were so amused that they giggled and were very happy. Seeing Shen Yizi and the others coming back, Luo Yao Yao stopped, put his hands on his hips, and wiped the sweat from his forehead. You two still know how to come back. I thought you were just enjoying yourself outside and making such a mess of me. The old man has forgotten it. Shen Yizi said, Master, how can I do that? We are thinking about you all the time. Look, these are the gifts I brought you. Do you like them? Hand over a kinkan bag directly. For her who has a lot of money, the kinkan bag is nothing now. In the kinkan bag, there were food, playthings, clothes, the talismans she drew, the elixirs she refined, and so many things that a kinkan bag with a space as big as a small room could barely contain it. Luo Yao Yao smiled brightly when he saw this. You have a conscience. Okay, go and prepare a table of delicious food for me. I miss you so much since I haven't eaten your food for so long. As you command, Master. Shen Yizi saluted him in a strange manner and walked into the kitchen. Luo Yao Yao kept looking at her back with a smile. When it was Gu Swiding's turn, the smile on his face disappeared in a second. You, follow me. Completely different from the closeness and kindness he treated Shen Yizi just now. Goose Whitting was not afraid at all. He dragged the two little guys holding his thighs slowly to the stone table under the pomegranate tree, sat down, made a pot of tea, and poured it for Luo Yao Yao. Master, you drink tea. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 480. Luo Yao Yao snorted proudly, raised the teacup to her mouth, blew on it, took a sip, and smacked it. Well, it's not bad. Within half an hour, Shen Yizi prepared a feast, moved the 8 immortals table outside, and served all kinds of delicacies to the table. Luo Yao Yao was shocked when he saw the purple crab in the middle, which was as big as a basin. This crab is so big. Shen Yizi introduced with a smile, this is the king crab I brought back from Qiandao Lake. It is full of fat, fragrant, and smooth, and it is delicious. Luo Yao Yao was drooling at what she said and couldn't help but take action. Shen Yizi, master, please don't worry, Mr. Kui hasn't arrived yet. She has already asked Kun-san to invite him. When he left earlier, Kui Mi asked the old village chief to help him supervise the construction of the house. The house had been completed a long time ago, and the furniture and furnishings were all done. Shen Yizi even planted many exotic flowers and plants in it. And also set up dust-avoiding arrays, constant temperature arrays and other arrays to ensure that the house is clean and refreshing. As expected, Kui Mi immediately fell in love with it as soon as he stepped into the house. He walked around in a circle and was even more satisfied. I have been packing up my new home this day. Hearing Kun-san calling him to eat, he immediately put down a book he was about to put on the bookshelf, clapped his hands and walked out. Let's go, let's go. He didn't even open the door, and walked quickly towards Shen's house. Kun-san, who was left behind, couldn't help but pursed his lips and smiled, and quickly followed. As soon as he stepped into the Shen family's courtyard, Kui Mi smelled a strong fragrance, which made his temple of 5 internal organs immediately become noisy. Luo Yao Yao greeted him, I'm waiting for you, come and sit down quickly. Kui Mi walked towards the sink, I'll wash my hands and come right back. The two old men sat at the head, Shen Yizi's family of 4 sat next to each other, Kun-san and Ganwu sat down next to them. There were 8 people at a table, looking at the delicious food on the table, start eating. After eating, I looked up and saw that the sky was full of stars. After clearing the table full of empty plates and empty bowls, the table was carried in, and several adults lay down comfortably on the lounge chairs, blowing the night breeze and chatting casually in the fragrant yard. The atmosphere was relaxed and leisurely. The 2 children were on their own, exploring in secret corners. Early the next morning, Xiao San handed over the activity planning document for the Dragon Boat Festival. After Shen Yizi looked at it, he gave full affirmation and praise, yes, that's it, but the amount of the reward for this dragon boat race can be adjusted appropriately. For the first place, she changed the reward to 999 taels of silver, and added a Dragon Boat Festival gift on the basis of 1 one-star ticket each for Minjiao Villa and 1 20% off coupon for Minjiao Restaurant. Second place will be awarded 888 taels, a coupon, and a boxing gift. The third place will be awarded 666 taels and a gift each. As for the rice dumpling eating competition, there is no threshold and everyone can participate. The ranking will be based on the number of rice dumplings eaten. The first place will be awarded a gold bowl, the second place will be awarded a silver bowl, and the third place will be awarded a bronze bowl. Each has a gift. There is no technical aspect to this competition, and for many people, being able to eat rice dumplings with an open belly is an attractive benefit in itself, so the rewards are lower. Shen Yizi mentioned to Xiao San that the college was going to hold a kuja competition and asked him to include the details of the event. Xiao San nodded and soon handed over a perfect event planning proposal. Okay, let's do it like this. You inform Xiaoming, and security will be done on the Dragon Boat Festival. If Xiao-san is equivalent to the actual manager of the entire Moqing city, then Xiaoming is the security captain. The two of them are both civil and military, and manage the entire Moqing city in an orderly manner, making it easy for her to be the hands-off manager. But then, she was still busy for several days. Busy preparing a large amount of rice dumplings to be used in the rice dumpling eating competition. She hired a group of hard-working women in the village, headed by Aunt Li, to help her. At the same time, she also taught a dozen puppets in the space and asked them to work overtime to complete the work. The wrapped rice dumplings are steamed directly in a constant burning cauldron. Steaming a large bucket at once is not a problem. The kind of bucket that is as big as a bathtub. After steaming, put it into a storage bag, one of each flavor. The sweet ones include candied rice dumplings, bean paste rice dumplings, red date rice dumplings, etc. The salty ones include ham rice dumplings, egg yolk rice dumplings, bacon rice dumplings. There are 20 or 30 kinds of them. This should be enough, right? Shen Yizi thought to himself. If it's not enough, then let the puppets in the space be wrapped up now. Anyway, their hands are very fast, and their work efficiency is really impressive. The day before the Dragon Boat Festival, Shen Yizi also made a large number of incense sticks. Mix several spices ground into powder such as realgar, lily, cypress, and patchouli, add clear and sweet spring water, add a few drops of spiritual spring, medicinal spring, and knead the spices together like flour. The dough is then allowed to ferment naturally for a period of time, and then placed in a steaming medium to heat it, so that the flavors of various medicinal aromas are neutralized together. After steaming for about 4 hours, you can take out the incense stick, press the incense stick into threads with a mold, dry it in the shade, and test one stick. If the green smoke rises straight up when the incense burns and does not float around, then it means that the incense is ready. Shen Yizi named the incense Kongyuxiang, which means the incense is burned specially on the Dragon Boat Festival. This is a kind of medicinal fragrance. The breath after burning has the effect of repelling insects and toxins, calming the nerves and calming the mind. When inhaled, it can detoxify and drive away diseases. The heavy use of 5 spices is an important part of the festival preparations she prepares. Early on the morning of the Dragon Boat Festival, Shen Yizi asked Kun San and Qianwu to deliver festival gifts to familiar households and people in the village. In the festival, in addition to the 5 spices, there is also a box of rice dumplings, a letter of pastries and a basket of fresh fruits. The news that Mocking City is going to hold a rice dumpling eating competition, a dragon boat race and a kuja competition has long spread to villages and towns within a radius of hundreds of miles, and the city is very lively early in the morning. The dragon boat race starts at 9 a.m., the kuja competition starts at 3 p.m., and the rice dumpling eating competition is held all day long. Sign up at any time and you can start eating at any time. The venue of the dragon boat race is, needless to say, Tianzhou Lake. Temporary stands have been set up by the lake for people to watch the race. The kuja competition was held on the playground of the college, and rows of seats were arranged around it. As for the rice dumpling eating competition, several platforms were specially built throughout the city as a base. In the big wooden barrel on the stage, the rice dumplings were piled up like a mountain, and they were all standing on their tops. There are 5 such large wooden barrels on the stage. Those who signed up for the competition have already gathered around the barrel and started eating rice dumplings. Each rice dumpling is tied with a red rope, and the contestants must hand the red rope to the counting referee. In addition, in order to ensure the fairness of the competition, several photo stones were placed on each stage to record the entire situation on the stage.